Hello, I'm Michael Scimeca, and I'm here having an incredible opportunity to talk with George Skaroulis today. And this is going to be quite informative. And if I have my dither, this is going to work out to be a really, really good recognition, I guess is the right word I'd like to use. I'd like to do my best to be able to see if I can impart some recognition for George Skaroulis. So I'm looking at his Wikipedia page, and it says he's a Greek-American pianist who has released 16 albums of music, and I believe that's up to 18 now. Born in Clearwater, Florida, mother was classically trained, and that he began playing piano at the age of 5. Although he experienced shyness and stage fright, he later began performing in piano stores and at the local mall, accompanied by his father, and entered annual talent shows at school. At the age of 10, his parents encouraged him to take piano lessons, but he quit after 5 weeks after his teacher discovered he was playing by ear. From then on, George Skaroulis taught himself piano by practicing. George, welcome. How are you, beautiful man?
Wow, I'm great. Thank you. And thanks for such a wonderful flashback.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, when you hear that, do you even believe that we're talking about you, or does it feel like we're talking about somebody else when I say
It
this?
does. It does feel like somebody else. So I haven't read that in so long. So it is like a nice, refreshing reunion. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. So, what I want to let people know is how we got to even become friends. So, it's a beautiful story. I have a client, his name is Howard Algier, and he found your music. I guess it was at a Greek festival. And he was so in love with your music that he bought me a CD called Imagine. And he brought it to me. And I fell in love with it. I mean, I really did right off the get-go. There are some amazing tracks on that, and we'll cover that in a little bit because I do want to take a little walk down your catalog, a little
Oh boy.
discography. I know. But it's going to be fun. But anyway, just so that you know, I find your music to be incredibly supportive for the kind of work that I've been doing, hands-on healing. I'm a chiropractor. And it just really sets the tone nicely and is very, very supportive for people to get better, to get more aware, to become more in touch with their bodies, which is a really important aspect of healing. And so what I found about your music, many, many things. Number one, it's in a very, very interesting place. It's in a very sweet spot where it's not elevator music, it's not muzak. And it's not just background music. It's facilitating music. I find it to be very, very effective to the listener and to the listeners. And I've had many people throughout the years comment on how nice my music is in the office. And so I've purchased all of the CDs that I could and MP3s that I could. And I just have been enamored with how I did never find myself tiring of your music, that whatever it did originally when I first heard it, in basically going into your whole entire catalog and getting my hands on anything George Skaroulis, it's still 2022, still holds up today as it did years and years ago. I felt
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I felt inspired to reach out to you when I found out that you are in Atlanta. And so that was very nice. And you were just really, really, really nice to me. And I knew that I always felt a little guilty in the fact that I've been using your music professionally in my office. And you weren't getting any money. You weren't getting any of the love hang on, it says, okay, there you go. And you really weren't getting any of the love that, the what do they even call that? The royalties, I guess. And so I really wanted to honor you, and you gave me that opportunity to, and you came by, and I had people, and we had a George Skaroulis night and gave you an opportunity to really meet some people that have known your music most intimately. And it really just worked. And I felt good in being able to recognize you in person and to be able to say, here, thank you. This is for years of playing your music, and just thank you. And you've been amazing with me. You really brought me in and let me into your world. And you know, as a guy who was just a fanboy, it meant a lot to me that you really let me into your life. And we have been such great friends since. And I'm so thrilled that you're so warm on top of everything else. And I do feel there's no coincidences at all, because I knew there's a reason why your music touches me so well, besides the fact that you let the notes breathe. You have an amazing gift. It is a gift. So I don't know what I'm leaving out here, except for the fact that it is surprising that you're not any more famous than you are. And you're pretty famous, and we're going to go over that tonight. But it's amazing that you're not a household name yet. Anyway, I was hoping that this video would really be a tribute to you, as well as perhaps maybe it can even be a catalyst, if you will, where people can maybe be exposed to you and find their way to your catalog the way I did. And maybe it just falls into the right hands at some time. So that's my intention.
Well, thank you for this. And I will never forget the night that you invited me to be around all of your wonderful friends and clients. And I walked into just such a surprise. You know, it was such a wonderful feeling to get so much love from people I'd never really met before. So thank you for that. And it was amazing. And I'm so glad to be your friend. And, you know, it took me a few minutes to open up. And once you invited me in, I guess I invited you in. It was just really, really nice.
Well, thank you. Well, you're quite the hit in my circle of the world. So, and my wife loves Brian, and we are very, very fortunate indeed. So let's get this thing on the road here. What I want to start out with, I was looking at your collection and I put them all down. So forgive me for looking down a lot, because I'm looking at my notes here because I want to do this right. But I have this saying, and it's been really, really true. And I'm not that good at it right now because I'm still really excited about doing this. But there's a phrase in a sentence that I use, and it's like, speak in such a way where your words do not disturb the silence. And I'm just a little bit of an excitable boy, so you have to forgive me. But I believe that your music actually does that. I believe your music can fill the room with these incredible melodies and sounds, and your energy and the way you play and the way you let notes breathe, that it really doesn't interfere with the silence. And I find that to be remarkably, you know, just an incredible gift, and that you have, and a gift for me in my office and such. So I wanted to let you know that. So what I'm thinking about doing here is, I know that you really can't remember all the titles of all your songs because there are so many. But
that is correct.
I'm very aware. But you can help me even pronounce some of them. So, and I know that most of the songs on most of your albums are your creations, you know, and certainly even the covers that you do, you certainly have a very interesting arrangement that you've done. And I'm going to just literally go through just a little bit, you know, at least one song per CD or album, whatever we want to call it, and see if there's anything that you actually remember or want to, because I don't think you will. So let's start with, like, first off, how did you even get to record Homeland, the original, the 1996 CD? And that was a hard one for me to get a hold of, dude. So what's up with that? I mean, that thing is like pure gold. I mean, talk about being out of print. That's not easy. So what can you tell me about the CD Homeland, and how did you even get into recording?
Okay, that's a very good question. So I've always kind of been playing privately, you know. So I met a pianist at the Mart downtown in Atlanta. His name is Bradley Hedrick, and he was very successful selling his music to the gift industry and to the spa industry and all of that. And even though we had different styles, he was, kind of my mentor at the time. And he encouraged me to produce my first album. And, I asked for his help, and, he helped me do it for the first time. And it was a scary step, but it was very exciting. It was 1996 back in, it was released right during the Olympics, or right before the Olympics took place in Atlanta. So that's how it all started. And he found me because I was playing at the Fox Theater. Next to the Fox Theater, there's a restaurant. And once a week, I would play the piano in the front window on a Monday night. So there was hardly anybody there. And he came in for dinner, heard me play, and that's kind of how we met.
Wow. Powerful.
So it was a long time ago.
Were you okay playing at that point in 1996, playing live? Were you comfortable?
Yes, but it was more like I was just playing background music. It wasn't like I was on the stage. It was kind of just creating an environment and a nice dinner mood. So it was kind of, nobody was really like, it was just kind of an ambience, it wasn't like, oh, here's George on the piano. It wasn't like that. It was just creating a mood.
I could see that being a win-win for you, that you would be so successful at not drawing attention to yourself, and where people wouldn't be sitting there staring and listening and taking in every note the way I do, and how that would be a win-win for you, in the fact that you would play in such a way that you could be background. I could see how that would work. Right. And people who brought you in, you're certainly being successful for the intention of bringing you in. How did you decide on the songs? Do you remember the first collection? I mean, I know you covered an awful lot of them in Return to Homeland, which we'll get to, but how did you really come to decide which songs to do, originals, covers, like that?
Gosh, so many of the songs were inspired by my trips to Greece with my family. My dad, fortunately, was, an avid traveler. So we went, all over the world, and going to Greece, our homeland, was, certainly a highlight in it. It really inspired all of us, as kids, to connect with where we all came from. So a lot of those song titles, kind of relate to, going to Greece and connecting with our heritage. So that's where Homeland comes in.
And it comes through. And even to this day, this is one of the things, if you remember it, I acknowledge you, is how well you represent your history, where you've come from. You do an incredible job of, there's a pride that you have for the Greek culture. And there's even a new CD coming out pretty soon, right? Dreams of Greece. What's the first word?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Pretty exciting. And after all these years, you still have a loyalty and a deep connection and fondness to your history. Where did that come from? I mean, how come, where most people lose it, how have you been able to maintain your history?
Two men in my life were very vital to that. My dad, Mike Skaroulis, he was very proud of his heritage, and he always wore a Greek American flag, or, something that represented, his heritage. He was a very proud Greek American. And also my grandfather, who lived with us in my earlier years. He was born in Greece. So being exposed to him, to his cooking, his techniques, his traditions, it had an effect on all of us. So that's kind of where it, I guess, it began at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. Well, I want to highlight a specific song, and I've talked to you about this before, and actually will be doing my part to pitch this song for a future collection. Whether you use this version or re-record it, I'll leave that up to you, or modify it. But the song Hymn, wow, what a melody. I wasn't really familiar with this. I know it's a cover. What can you tell me about that? And let me play a little bit here before you comment.
Okay, great.
This is what your music does to me. And I have to slow down now, George. I mean, this is just one song from the first CD, and this is consistently you. What do you have to say for yourself?
Wow, I haven't heard that in such a long time. So I do remember I remember that song and being inspired by it and kind of honoring another Greek composer and who has such a great wealth of music and has scored so many films. And, that's kind of always been my, you know, I want to do more of that. So that probably was what inspired the recording of him. And I think it was also in a commercial back then for probably like Lambrusco or some wine or something. I forget who it was, but I think they used that theme in the background in their commercials, and that probably made it very popular.
Well, for the audience, it's Vangelis, right? So
Yes.
was he somebody that you listened to a lot and you just cherry picked that song, or is that something that just jumped out at you? How did
I
that
knew
work?
his music a little bit, but not a lot. And so I think the commercial is probably, it was just it was popular at the time.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it just seemed like a logical song to include.
Mhm. Now, just for the sake of time, because I really do want to go on and on and on, I could really honor that CD, and it deserves some work. It's out of print. So how do people get a hold of this? Is there a way? I mean, is there ever possibly that this can be resurrected on digital, or no way? There's some legal pieces that are not going to allow this to ever see the light of day again, or
Mhm.
how does it work?
I could certainly make it digital. Yeah.
But again, as a fanboy, anything that you have is pure gold. And yeah, so anything that you can do to get that out would be great. It's all extra bonus. And so let's move on to Numinous, shall we? The first real CD, I think that's still available and still performing very well, especially the title track. Um, Let me just play a little bit of this now because I think it really set the theme about this entire collection, which I think is remarkable, by the way.
Thank you.
what absolutely touches me about this piece is how much love you still get. I mean, I don't know if you do YouTube much, and if you see how people respond to your music to this day, and how many people are still just finding you. Now, this is from 1998, so it's a couple of years ago. What do you remember about this piece?
Well, Numinous was created, this music was created for a kind of multi-dimensional art exhibit that took place in Atlanta. So I believe there were 7 or 8 galleries that were involved, and they all were to display. The challenge was to kind of, in unison display a spiritual collection of art. And I wanted to create music that had kind of a spiritual but not a religious base. So it was kind of like anybody could listen to this and look at the art at the same time and have just kind of a quiet experience, and just hopefully the music would enhance the installations.
Mm.
And so my friend Anthony Ardeman had a gallery at the time in Atlanta and Buckhead, and we worked on this together, and that's how it all happened. And the artwork is from Sebastian Spring. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy. He lives in Miami. And so he did the cover art for Numinous, and it was one of the pieces that was included in this exhibit.
Fabulous. And talk a little bit about the making of this, because what still holds up today is the layering. And I'm a fan of your layering. It really helps people leave their bodies and go to another world, a meditative state, which is where a lot of great work happens for people who need healing. So what can you remember about the recording of that, the arranging of that, the layering of that? It's an amazing, timeless piece.
Thank you. It kind of surprises me, because that was kind of my own fiddling with my own sound. So I didn't have a producer at the time. I was just really, everything was recorded on my keyboard, and I just kind of continually adding layers. And I know it's time for me to do a little more of that. So it was my first attempt at kind of doing it myself. And completely different genre from, not completely, but a little more ethereal and a little more meditative in style, I guess. So
absolutely. And it works. I mean, what's amazing is the amount of different audiences you reach, because you cover such a wide variety. As you know, I'm a major fan of your CD Passion, which is really a beautifully stripped down version of just a man at the piano, just feeling so well and beautifully. And it's almost amazing that it's the same guy, and you can see that these selections, these tracks of yours, they definitely have different purposes, if you will, or they'll have different effects. And it's wonderful that it all came through one man throughout the years of his career,
Thank you.
I'm looking on YouTube right now, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you. I don't know if you're familiar, but another track, Calling, from that same Numinous collection. And I just want to read some of the quotes. One just came from 4 months ago. Now think about this. This is a song that you basically released in 1998. And 4 months ago, a gentleman, and most of you, and by the way, I'm going to put some of these links on this video in YouTube, and let people see these comments, because most of the comments are not in English. They're in a foreign language. And it's amazing how far reaching your music has been. You are really an international phenomenon, which is still, and one of the best kept secrets on the planet. And yet you're still reaching so many people all over the world. But the comments that I can read, and what blew me away about Calling, which is like Numinous for me, and the way you've layered it, very, very powerful. And the calling, we have calls to answer. Listen to this quote from 4 months ago.
Wow.
This is one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. So let me have a moment here just to play a little bit of The Calling. All the other quotes are not in English. I mean, just so you know. So I'm going to say
I
that
have
again.
not looked at any of that in for a while, so thanks for letting me know.
And obviously, George, this is a favorite of yours, like Numinous. This has shown up on collections that you have, including songs for Sophie. And what do you remember about The Calling? I know we're going back to 1998, but is there anything that you remember about making and recording this track?
Thank you so much. Wow, I do love that song. I don't really listen to my music hardly ever, so it's nice to step back in time a little bit and hear that song. I know you love that one. So
Very much so. Yes, you will. Yes. Let me just change gears here and just before we leave Numinous, and let me ask you, Blue Night. Come on, George. What were you thinking? Where did you come up with that name? I'm serious. 1998, Blue Night.
well, I'm Greek, so I love blue, as you can see.
It's so fascinating. I mean, I do believe our connection is absolutely beautiful, and I really, really appreciate that. So, thank you. I just wanted to point out that I do a thing called Blue Night, and so on Wednesday evenings, and the fact that you have a song called Blue Night was just so synchronistic, especially since it was recorded such a long time before I even knew it existed, and Blue Night was been going for a pretty long time now. So, anyway.
Thank you.
Just wanted
Congratulations. One day I'm going to make it to Blue Night,
to.
or one night I'm going to make it to Blue
Yeah.
Night.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will.